After several African nations kicked France out of their countries, France is falling apart. Now, you probably remember in the past couple of years, many African countries have been kicking the French out of their countries. Now, this included countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. And things haven't been going well for the French economy ever since. Just last week, the French Prime Minister resigned because he just couldn't fix the economy. So how did we get here? Well, let's dive in. Now, in the late 1900s, many European countries started to leave Africa after they had controlled and colonized it for a couple of hundreds of years. But not France. France left, but only in name. In reality, France was still running things and they still kept control of all of these West African countries. France still controlled 14 countries in Africa. Now, so what France was doing here was that they signed agreements with governments of these countries, either through bribery or through negotiation without actually exposing the downsides of the agreement. So negotiating in bad faith. So these agreements said that these countries needed to keep most of their reserves in the French currency and it needs to be kept in France. And also, now the central bank that ran the currencies of all of these countries had a French representative who had a veto power. Now this means that these countries couldn't make decisions of their own long-term investments because France will always have a veto power to say, no, I don't think you should do that. Now this includes investments inside their own country. So if they wanted to build a road, they wanted to build schools, they couldn't just access their reserves because their reserves, more than half of them, 65%, were kept in France. Now, when the France defend themselves, they said that this benefited these countries because their currencies didn't fluctuate because their currencies were linked to the franc. But this also meant that if things are going bad in France, the currencies of these countries also lose value, which meant that any bad decision that France does will definitely have huge consequences on the currencies and the economies of these countries. So in a nutshell, these countries were propping up the French economy. Now, on top of that, France was also taking a large amount of resources. So 30% of France's uranium that it used to produce electricity was mined in Niger. But more than 90% of the people in Niger didn't even have electricity. Now, there were also mining companies that were coming from France, digging up the gold and buying it at a very cheap amount because remember, they maintained their control of the value of the currency between the franc and those countries' currencies. And then they will take them and then sell them at a higher price to the rest of the world. Now, starting about 5 to 6 years ago, there started to be a resistance in these countries. That's when military coups came in. That's when we saw the rise of people like Ibrahim Traore and other leaders around the region. Now, these leaders, when they came in, they cancelled most of these contracts. But on top of that, they removed that veto power that allowed France to veto anything that these countries wanted to do economically. Now, this came with a huge burden on the French economy. So starting from 2022, when they started to see that the show is about to end, they started to put in measures to try to prop up their own economy. Now, the other problem they have is that most Western countries, including those in Europe, those in Asia, like Japan, South Korea, and also the United States, they have an aging population. This means that there's a lot of people who are about to go on retirement, and there's no one who's going to come and replace those people in the job market. Now, this is very bad because when you retire, you're no longer producing anything that helps the country, but at least there will be someone who comes in and take on your place, who will be taxed, and that tax money will be used to prop up the economy, to build roads that you are going to use, even though you're no longer contributing to the economy. This includes your retirement. So the money that gets deducted from your account is not being stored in a single account and then when you retire, they're going to take it and give it to you. It's being used for investment. It's being used to build things. And the process here is that when it's your time to retire, the money will be taken from those who are going to be working at that time and it will be used to pay you off when you retire and cash out. But the problem in many Western countries is that many people are about to retire, but there's no people who are going to come in and replace them. That's why those countries had to seek out workers from Asia and Africa. That's why you saw a lot of people who migrated overseas to go there and work, including me. It's because they're trying to replace aging population. So France has the same problem. So what they did is that the first step that they did, I think it was 2022 or 2023, they came out and they said that they're going to rise the age of retirement. So instead of retiring at 60, they increased it to retiring at 62. That means that they have delayed the amount of time that they need to cash out those people who are retiring. And also, they're adding 2 more years to those people who are working to add more value into the economy and contribute. They also increased it from that to 64, but that will only be implemented, I think, in 2030. So as you can see, they're trying to solve the problems, but that wasn't enough. France also have a very huge deficit. This means that the amount of money that they are collecting from tax is less than the amount that they are spending in the public spending, things like schools, roads, administration, and all of those other things that the governments need to do. So what do? They borrow. And now France also has the highest borrowing in Europe. So they've been borrowing a large amount of money, and it's becoming very difficult now to pay back that money back. On top of that, because of all of these problems, France's credit rating has lowered, which means that now whenever they go to borrow, they're going to have to pay even more money. So what they did is they came with a plan. The plan included removing 2 holidays. They are saying that we have 2 holidays, we need to remove them. People need to be working on those holidays. That will produce more money for the economy, and we can use it to reduce the amount of debt. People were having none of that. They were like, no, you're not going to take away my holidays. Just think as a South African, for example, if they say June 16th is being taken away, the 1st of May is being taken away, definitely you will have something to say about that, and you won't be happy. Now, on top of that, they're saying that they're going to cut public spending. The money that is being spent on welfare, the money that is paid to people who are like old or people who are unable to work for themselves, they want to cut that. And people are not happy about it, so they came out. So the Prime Minister went to Parliament and said, guys, this is the plan. This is how we're going to do it. Who is agreeing with me? Who's not agreeing with me? And then he challenged them to a vote of no confidence, in which he lost, and then he was removed. So that's how bad things are in France right now. The economy is not doing well. They don't have a way out. People are angry. People are resisting, but something has to be done. It's either you need to cut on the spending, or you need to increase tax, or you need to work more. It's one of those. There's no other way. So we're going to see how people are going to react, and I'll keep you updated on this story. If you like this kind of story, please repost this video. Just go there on the share and then press repost. And then to support me, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, and I'm going to see you there.